Real Talks with Rechie, take 4. Soraya, welcome to Real Talks with Rechie.
Well, thank you for having me in your show.
I know. It's great to have you. As the Minister of Tourism, I need to know, what is your favorite spot where you take your family in Hochelaga?
Well, we have one of the icons of tourism in Canada, which is the Olympic Stadium.
Okay.
So you can actually go all the way up the tower and have like a almost 160 view, and you can see very far away from the riding. And actually, the stadium is something that everybody sees from everywhere in my riding. So we can see the light of the tower, and it's really one of the icons that we have in our riding.
In the riding of Mississauga Streetsville, we have the famous Bread and Honey Festival.
Oh.
I attended this festival since I was a child, and we continue to have it year over year, so it's a very special celebration.
And I have the Botanical Garden, as you maybe know, and the Insectarium, and the Planetarium, and the Biodome now that has been renovated. And I've brought my small kids there. Now I've brought my nephew there. And so, yeah, these are like very well-known tourism sector. It's more than 1.5 million people go every year, which is huge, yeah.
And across Canada, what's your favorite spot to take your family?
Well, I lived in Vancouver for a while.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, that's actually where I learned to speak English.
Really?
Yeah, I was in Vancouver. And so Vancouver is pretty, I think the West Coast, it's pretty amazing. But as a minister, I got to visit Cape Breton, I got to visit the Atlantic region, Newfoundland. I mean, seriously, we have so many wonderful places in this country. It just amazes me all the time.
Exactly. The small businesses are the driver of our economy. But what really benefits small businesses is our tourism industry as a whole. And I know you've just launched something really huge for Canada. If you can share some more.
Well, I mean, we believe in tourism. We believe that it's a driver, economic driver, but it's also a social driver because people are so proud of you talk to me about your festival, I talk to you about, what's in my writing. So every community has this thing that they want to share with the world. So more than just economics, it's also about pride. And so we launched a strategy for tourism growth, and we put a lot of money into small businesses through the economic agencies across the country. And we have helped so many hundreds of small businesses already. And the other thing is that we put a lot of money into the indigenous tourism, because I think one of the great opportunities that we have is the indigenous tourism in this country, and I think we can be leaders in the world of that. So for me, those are the pillars of what we're doing. And of course, I mean, having our all government approach to tourism growth, I think that's one of the challenges that we have and that we're tackling now. So
for sure. And everywhere I go, I mean, when I meet with small businesses directly, they know that tourism is such a driver to bring and attract their customers to come to them and explore and try new products, check out their services. But one of the things that you talked about with indigenous tourism is the fact that our government prioritizes reconciliation, and particularly economic reconciliation.
And I think we have what people are looking for right now, which is authenticity, and authenticity in the experience that they can travel to and not only see things but feel things, right? But it is so much more for the indigenous community themselves. Like, it is an economic reconciliation driver. They can actually benefit their own communities with it, but they mostly can decide what they want to do with that tourism and how they want to share their culture, because it's to them to decide what they want to do with it and how they want to do it and how they want to showcase their cultural traditions. And it is also a way for their own communities to share with the young generations of Indigenous that this is what they are in terms of identity. And I think it's so powerful for them to be able to do that and share and benefit their own communities through a very economic important driver, which is tourism.
For sure. And I recently went to Cape Breton and made an announcement of $2.5 million for women entrepreneurs as well as youth entrepreneurs as well. And I think this is huge. If you think about all the stories and the entrepreneurs, the other day you were wearing these beautiful earrings from an Indigenous entrepreneur. I think about the artistry and the creativity that they have, and how many entrepreneurs out there are going to be empowered to be able to choose entrepreneurship as an option for them in their future.
Yeah, I mean, tourism, we have to make sure that people see this as career opportunities and that they can see that as a way to be entrepreneurs. And I think, when you see the numbers around who works in the industry, most of them are young people and women, diversity. So there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs to actually take the risk of launching a new company around either accommodation, the food industry, attractions, being tourism operators. There's so many career paths in this industry that it's, everybody can find some space and be there. And the money that we're putting through the indigenous tourism growth will help a lot of these new entrepreneurs to find their space.
For sure. Now, you oversee the Economic Development Agency in Quebec. So a lot of people might not know that this is available to them. So can you share some of the resources or some of the services you offer?
Yeah, well, I mean, the agency in Quebec is a bit like the agencies are across the country, right? Every region has its own economic agency and development agency, and we are very aimed to the very local and grounded in very small and communities to make sure that we're supporting what the economy of the local needs. So every region has a regional office, and I always tell people, you should just call them up, because they're really there to support you in every way that you need. And we can actually, I think the biggest strength of the agency, it's not that they have so many programs. We have mainly 2 really big programs, so it's very wide in terms of what we can do. And one of the reasons is because we want to be flexible. We want to be sure that we're helping the industry, the company, or the entrepreneur at where he's at, the life of an entrepreneur. So I think, just call them up, because we're there to accompany you and support you in whatever stage of your entrepreneur life you are. And I think that's one of the biggest assets that we have.
And I think it's very complementary to the other programs that we have, whether it's our women entrepreneurship strategy, Black entrepreneurship program, TUS LGBTQ plus program, the economic development agencies spread out across Canada provide entrepreneurs a place where they can go if they need advice, if they need help. And I think those resources are really helpful to entrepreneurs.
And I think it's, we combine ourselves very well. You have, you're at the head of the SMEs, and you foresee the BDC, and I mean, for sure, I mean, we're there for the small, medium, and large companies, because everything, it works well as an ecosystem. And the opportunity for us is making sure that we're taking that company and making sure that we follow them through their life, and eventually, they grow to the size that they want and export or not, or it's just we're there for them. We're not telling them what they want or what they need. We are them, just to follow them on their commercial path.
Exactly. Now, with Budget 2024. Can you share some of the things that you are particularly proud of with the budget that we just launched?
Oh my God, there's so many things in that budget that it's so good for Canadians. I mean, just on the tourism side, I mean, for sure, supporting transport. The backbone of the tourism growth will go through our capacity to grow our transportation. People need to get from point A to point B and have a good experience when they travel, and that goes through transport. So I think it's a budget that's really good on transport. We need to have people living in regions and making sure that we have people that live in there. So housing is a very important key of our budget. There's no economic development if there's no housing.
Exactly.
So people need to eat. So making sure that kids can eat in school and making sure that we're growing the next generation in a good way, and for that they need to have food on the table and go to school and not feel their empty stomach, but really eat the way and then study in a well and with their head clear, not because they're hungry. So I think and the health, making sure that we're taking care of our seniors, for starting on the dental care. So I think we have a budget that actually make sure that we're supporting the growth of the economy, we're not leaving anybody behind, and we're supporting the social net that people need to have to live their lives in a way that they can actually also not only benefit of support, but also contribute to society because they're well taken care of.
Exactly. And I love the fact that we are creating fairness for every generation.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about our kids and
absolutely.
what the hardship that they will, that they're having now.
Yeah.
And we want to make it easier for them to be able to have a home, raise their own family when they grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. My daughter's 23, my son's 21, and I mean, for sure, they don't even think that they can actually buy a home. So we have to make sure that we're supporting that gap, generational gap, and giving the same opportunities to everybody, for sure.
So, Soraya, you and I don't have conventional paths to get into politics.
At all.
So I would love to, share. It's really inspiring, your story. I mean, you started, you had the opportunity to work as a staff on the Hill.
Yes.
And I mean, to see you now, Soraya, just incredibly inspiring.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I never thought I was going to be a minister. I never thought I was going to be an MP. I mean, I started my political life as a city councilor so many years ago in 2005. It's almost 20 years ago. And I think life is an encounter of opportunities, and people sometimes go through that life seeing these opportunities and don't take them because they're scared, because they don't have the support that they need to make those decisions, or just simply take the risk of just jumping on the train or jumping off the train. So I think I had a life of many opportunities, and as they came along, I kind of seized those opportunities. But I didn't really have a lifetime plan around being an MP or being a minister. But I think we're privileged. We're the example of what this country can give to people, and I think that's to your same path. I mean, I think we can give hope in terms of what we are, and show what we are, so people can say, well, if they can make that or they can do that, I can take those opportunities and make them real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what you shared was very important. I'm very similar as well. I think in this life you have to be very open-minded and take every opportunity that is presented to us. So I love that. Now, the other day, a few weeks ago, you shared a very, very powerful and personal story in the house. And I just love that you were so open to sharing it. It was a very personal story of your experience as well. I was wondering if you were comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I said it in the house, so I cannot be more public than that. But yeah, I think it was very important because, as you know, I mean, women's rights are always so fragile, and we have to be careful about. Sophie Chattel had asked the question. The question was, and she was talking about Simone de Beauvoir, which she says that women's right will always be a target when there's a religions or a political crisis. And I think when you see what's going on in the world, and when you see the far right moving up the ladders of governments in some other countries in the world, you see that women's rights can always be taking away from. And so that day, I thought that just saying that we were a government that will defend women's rights wasn't enough. And a couple hours before that question period, I said, okay, so I think I have to go further than that, and I have to share my own story so people can understand what freedom means.
And we're really privileged in this country to have the rights that we do.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud that we're a government that really cares about women, and cares about inclusivity, and I just think it was very commendable, and I really thank you for sharing that. I really am concerned, Soraya, that what we're hearing these days with the conservatives, and we don't want women's rights to be threatened. We want to make sure that we retain the incredible freedoms that we have as individuals and as women, and what we do with our bodies and what we choose to do with ourselves.
And I think the most important part, is, because a lot of people will ask you, why don't you legislate you don't legislate women's body.
No.
You don't legislate a uterus. You know what I mean? You don't. We decriminalized it. We, make sure that women decide what they want to do with their own bodies, and that's it. But the most important thing is that you have to make sure that there's no insecurity about that right. And the Conservative Party actually are just perpetuating that insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they will not take it away, or maybe they will, but they actually have the capacity to do it. So they have to close the door to that insecurity, and they haven't done that, and that's what scares me.
Same with me.
Yeah.
Again, like, we are very privileged to live in a country that allows us the capability to have that freedom. And I think if I look back to all the things that we've put in place, we've been empowering women since 2015. We've empowered them to provide them with the option with the $10 a day child care, for example. Empower them to make the choice to, pursue their career path, to open their own business. We've given them the options to be able to help them raise their family through their Canada Child Benefit, or through having affordable childcare. And then you just mentioned it yourself. Imagine 400,000 kids across this country who can go to school and not be hungry. And how having them have their bellies full will make them more productive kids, because they're our future. They're the next generation.
And I think we're a government that doesn't think about, yes, there's a deficit, but the deficit is there because we're investing in people, and because we believe in people. And people are more than just numbers. And I think having the capacity and taking the risk of investing in people is more important than just cutting off numbers on the column because you want to get to zero at the end. And I think that's what we're doing as a government, and that's why I'm also so proud of being this government, because we're doing the right thing for Canadians, and trusting Canadians that this is the right path, and that we'll get there all together, and people will be better off.
And the only thing I'll add there is we make smart investments.
Yes.
Like, really smart investments. The fact that we're investing in companies to help them green their business, and then while providing more jobs to Canadians, the electric vehicle investments we've made, and all the things that we're doing to help fight climate change while giving more money back to Canadians.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is holistic. Everything is all about inclusivity, and then again, fairness for every generation.
And exactly. And I think fighting climate change shouldn't be a partisan issue, because it has to be something that we have to do as a country, and we have to lead the way in the world as a G7 country. We have to show that we can, invest in the fight to climate change, and also in the economy, but also in the social net that people need, on dental, on the child daycare, on feeding the kids, and investing in lithium batteries, and so all these investments make sense because you're bringing everybody together at the same place.
I think the last thing that I'll touch on is pharmacare.
Yes.
Imagine how many people across this country have diabetes, and how time consuming and how expensive it is to be able to afford the medicine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being able to now afford it. And then also with the contraceptives, allowing women, again, the choice to be able to purchase that. And then we will take care of it. And it's going to be free and accessible.
I think it's taking away the choice that you make sometimes when you don't have a lot of money in your life, and between buying a carton of milk for your kid and buying contraception, you will buy the milk because that's what you choose. But you would like to buy the contraception because you want to have the choice of your life as a woman. And I think that's so very important, that shouldn't be a choice of money. It has to be a choice of life, and as a government, we have to support that. Diabetes, same thing. A senior person, I have so many in my writing, that will actually choose not to buy that medicine, instead buy the food that they need to eat. So it shouldn't be a choice. And that choice, we're taking away that choice in terms of we're supporting it, and we're saying you don't have to choose. We'll take care of it.
Exactly.
And I think that's so important.
Well, thank you so much, Soraya, for
Thank you,
joining.
Rechie.
It's so good to have you.
I know. Thank you for doing this. This is amazing.
For sure. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.